Hello, dreamers. Welcome. Hope you're well. Hope that you're feeling and seeing and experiencing things outside of what you normally would experience. That you're starting to expand your relationship with perception, with input. Shamans get pretty bold and daring when they become aware of their potential, and they speak to the universe directly, often in front of others. They are courageous in their expression. They refer to it as acts of grandiose. Once you stop being so concerned how people perceive you, then you're free to dance, express, speak, and perform acts that would typically be embarrassing to others. And it's triggering and confronting to people. So there's a lot of energy associated with doing such things. So you want to be very calm and have your nervous system regulated when it comes time to start doing things outside of your comfort zone, which expands your comfort zone and it actually becomes somewhat comfortable to do. But when you're silent enough and you're listening and you're in tune, then you are guided and you know when to say something or do something or announce something or perform in some way that will not only liberate you but will offer or plant a seed for others to be liberated, to expand into a new type of courage. There's all kinds of courage, there's kinds of professional athletes doing crazy shit on dirt bikes or whatever, but there's another kind of courage that most people don't know about, which is it's more of an emotional courage. It's like that you've freed yourself from that which what we call social power, and you're no longer needing to be validated from the social world, and you're getting your validation from a much deeper, much more meaningful, much more authentic and realistic place that is legit, not propped up by how others or large groups perceive realities. And so it's really, really empowering, and it makes things so much easier as far as you no longer are referencing how others will respond. You can kind of foresee it. You can kind of be detached enough to have insight into what will likely play out. And it doesn't always go that way, but then that's when you find out how fluid you are. And that's what really makes a warrior, is your fluidity, your ability to let go and transition into what's happening rather than be caught in what you thought it was going to be like. To be adaptable, to be willing to try something different. But the ego wants repetition, it wants control, it wants to know what it's got itself into. So it starts to get threatened when your spirit starts to take over and guide you into these fluid places of knowledge and freedom. And as powerful as all this is, you kind of come to terms with that it's not easy, that this takes a lifetime in order to make these changes, and that you'll have some real breakthroughs, but you'll have some times where you just feel put in your place, because you're operating from two different parts of yourself. The part of you, that the shadow that is unprocessed, that is wanting to hold you back so that it can have that wound addressed, and then you got the part of you that is aware that your time is short here and is acting accordingly, and is pursuing all that it loves, so that it can discover itself and have a much more intimate connection with intent, with death, with life. So becoming fluid in your dancing, in your snowboarding, in your martial arts, in your relationships, being able to handle lots of energy moving through you without needing to necessarily like blow it. Like a lot of us build a lot of energy up, and then it's like, well, I don't know what to do with all this energy, and then we have to blow it off basically, and that's just part of learning about it, and it's okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that you can, with semen retention, with building of sexual energy, you can use it to do incredible things in the lucid dreaming realm, which accesses a very fluid, powerful way of really celebrating your life. You become more aware and sensitive to birds and the wind and the sun and the moon and people singing and people smiling. You sense it, you pick up on it, you become aware of these things, and you honor people who are fluid, who are accessing some form of freedom, and by honoring them, you're honoring yourself. You're creating a bond, a bridge with power and freedom, and the universe is watching. The universe is observing you because you are an extension of it. So as you observe yourself, you are being observed by that which made all of this possible, which again is you. So it's good to be humble and realize that we are not, that there's a separation that's occurred from source, and that we are an extension of it, that we are not the almighty of anything, but we are humbled to be connected to and an extension of that which is that oneness, which is which each person can return. You don't have to wait for others in order for you to change. It is not other people who are keeping you from what you want. This is a world of magic, and if you're playing by the rules of the programming, you can only get so far. But if you come out of the program, you can adjust on so many levels that you can start to have a life outside of that social structure. And then electromagnetically, you start to change, and things start to happen in a beautiful way for you, because you're starting to pioneer into a direction, a new neural pathway that is just filled with support, because anyone willing to make changes with their ego is essentially the one or the few or the hopefully the many that will have the greatest effect on how all this plays out in this particular layer, this particular dream. So the reason shamans do these strange movements is to unlock parts of their being that help them to then be more creative and imaginative and fluid. And then they are shown, because they let their body be moved, they're shown movements, power moves, ways of shamanic movements that are your personal movements, not to teach, but ones that are for you and you alone. Like in a peyote ceremony, you'll be given a song. You will channel a song, and it's yours and yours alone, and you can use that song for the rest of your life if and when you need to. But it's used or reserved for when you need it. And there are particular words, there are particular things that a warrior learns about and how to use when needed, when you've got yourself into it, something a little bit over your head, you can take care of yourself. And because shamans do go on some crazy adventures in order to learn about power, and they harvest crystals from the earth, and they activate those crystals in very powerful ways, and they align with beings that help them, that not necessarily recommended, but it's old school Toltec ways of being able to know things by having a helper. Or if you read the first Castaneda book, he uses, Don Juan teaches him how to use particular power plants, and with Datura it teaches him how to do divination, how to know exactly what's happened or what is going to happen by doing specific rituals. And there is a lot of that type of thing that exists in this world. It's still going on. It's not like all the shamans are dead. They just aren't the kind that the real ones aren't going to be the kind that you're easily going to find. And I'm not claiming to be a shaman whatsoever. I'm a student of many unique, incredible people who all were associated with or were shamans themselves. And the more fluid a warrior is, the more laughter and joy and lightness he or she has access to. And it's just a lot more harmony. But the ones that are less fluid, that are more stubborn, they have a lot of power. And if they can get through their journey to get to a place where they are a person of knowledge, then that extra energy, that stubbornness actually is very useful in a different way. It's kind of gets in the way in the beginning, but it's really helpful later on. Where I'm less stubborn and more fluid, so I will maybe have an easier introduction to this stuff and a more challenging future with it, because I just don't have that same willpower that those that are truly stubborn do. So every time you have a gift, it's partially sort of a curse, and every curse that you have is actually a gift. It's just how you look at it. And that's the nature of our duality, right? Is that it's all part of how we learn, and we can't sort of just say, well, I like this part and not the other. It's going to take everything for you to dig deep and to reach down and grab that part of you that can get you through to the place that you really want to go. But getting to the place where you can really admit where you want to be is the first step. And then learning to truly be where you're at and stop pretending or lying to yourself or others that you're further along than you are. But keep finding ways to liberate yourself. Everyone has something, just do it. Go out and get it, right? Whether it's a motorcycle at high speeds that blows your chakras open, or running, or being in the wilderness at night alone in the dark. I mean, that's life-changing if you're willing to keep staying there and not distract yourself. You will see and learn about darkness and power and energy, and it will just completely reset your reality. But it takes years to come to terms with these things, so it's okay. Go slow. Don't try to push the process. But listen, you may be called to expedite certain things because of the nature of the time that we're in. But in Aikido, you have to be totally, totally relaxed in order to generate a ton of energy, right? So your relaxation is your power. Your nervous system regulating resetting of your being is your power. That's what's going to allow you to then have access to and know things and be able to really show up with all of what you are. And you're all miracles. We all are an extension of this miracle of life. This existence is more than we could ever ask for. And of course it's going to be intense like this. I mean, this is what we're designed for, intensity. And once your chakra system is opened up, because you are taking care of it by having ecstatic experience, like because you're surfing, because you're going out in the middle of the night and doing things that would change you, or whatever it is. Yeah, keep finding new ways, because the old ways don't always work. We get challenged and shown that we're meant to do something different as a means to expand our resiliency zone and come out of our comfort zone and into become more multifaceted. So all of this is so worth doing, because when you're able to focus on lucid dreaming and really enjoy all that is being shown to you, it's so kind of intense that it takes getting used to, and you want to be able to shake all that energy off as it gets too intense, right? So that's what the magical passes are designed for, is to move energy. But so are certain martial arts, and so is dancing. And there's all kinds of dancing. You're dancing with your partner, whether it's sexual or with just celebration. It's a dance to, and dancing alone is a dance of power. Like, shamans don't do these things in front of others. They do these things alone, and they get used to being alone, and they take care of themselves while they're alone, because they know that there'll be times when they're not alone and that it's harder to manage the energy. So they take that extra caution. They're very aware of why they're here and what they're here to do, and so they're not going to waste their energy or time on things that are going to derail their purpose. And so once you have a path of heart and you've fallen in love with your purpose, then you're so much inspired. It's really liberating. But it's okay if you're not there, if you don't feel that you know what your purpose is, if you haven't come to terms with your potential. And that's okay. So just know that it's available to access, and that the journey to discover your purpose is just as incredible as the journey of having your purpose. And your purpose will change. It'll move. It'll adjust depending on what happens in your life and who you meet and how much your heart opens, and losing people and all the things that will change the trajectory of your days ahead. But if you can always seek a path of heart, then you'll always resonate with people that are doing the same, and you'll feel amazing because you're hanging out with and supporting and are part of something incredible. And you are. You may not feel it all the time, but you're incredible. You're capable. You've been limited to think that you are here to uphold a particular way of perceiving reality, but upon death you find out that there was so much more. And it's what I want for people, is to have these opportunities to know about that more, the moreness, the extra, the hidden. It's right here in front of us all the time. It's just a matter of calming your thoughts until eventually you don't have many thoughts at all, and then you start to feel so strongly. You'll start to know things. You'll start to see things, and you'll stop being so easily distracted. There's a lot of love in this world, and I know we're in a time in which it feels like there's just too much contraction. But it's really, if you've watched my other videos, that's pretty critical that we have this contraction. It leads to a massive expansion. Forces always rise to meet each other. Everything's playing out as it needs to. It doesn't mean that everyone gets to live and everyone gets to be rich, and there's no guarantees on any of it. But you get to become fully aware and awake if you so choose. Or you can bury your head and pretend none of this is, meaningful to you, and just, check out. And it's okay if that's what you're doing at times, but I encourage you to go easy on yourself. Give yourself permission to do whatever you feel you need to do in the moment. And then when you feel energized again, make the most of that. Give yourself permission to do all of it and come out of this guilt around all of it, because it's just you judging yourself, based on what you think others would see it as, based on how those that you admire talk, but it's just about finding yourself and your journey to your heart, because only you know that path is filled with obstacles and challenges that are based on your story. And your story is inspiring, right? If you can tell your tale, there's always going to be richness, details of struggle. It may be that you were a rich kid raised in a home, and you didn't really have a close relationship with your parents because money was more important than the family bond, and that's trauma. People say, "Oh, those lucky people with all the money," but sometimes it's not the case. So you never know what it is that is somebody's pathway to their heart space and where their wounds lie. So don't judge people. You don't know. You have no idea what they're up to or what they've been through. Just work on you. Get to know who you are. It's a whole nother, it changes everything. And there are no enemies, right? In Aikido, the only thing that is keeping you from evolving is you. And the work is right here in front of you at all the time. Feel free to reach out. There's all kinds of methods, especially once you start doing the movements. Then you'll start to intuit and understand how to unbind through these acts of not doing, which is to reach silence while observing something until it moves or shifts and changes, and then it opens up and you start to have a timeless experience, something beyond, what is the conditioned perception. And it can be intensely uncomfortable, or some people it's very comfortable but like hard to maintain because it's just too much energy. So the more time you spend playing with these altered states of perception, the more used to them you'll be, and you won't need to take psychedelics or anything in order to have access. So I hope everyone's playing hard, having fun, enjoying the sun, getting to know themselves more and more, and expressing their feelings to those that you love, making peace with people that if there has been disharmony, do all that you can on your end, and hope that they so too also long to do that. And sometimes by you doing it, you give them permission, maybe not to work it out with you, but they may be inspired to work it out with someone else, and that might save somebody else's life. And don't be afraid to spread that love in that way. It doesn't have to be all fluffy and fruity. Love is a very real thing. It's very powerful, and we all are seeking it, and we all come from it to a degree. Some of us were raised in a lot of love, some of us only a little bit, but we all have the potential to have a relationship with the mother, and through being held by the mother is so incredible that you're able to balance your being if you were in a situation where you've never been held or loved, at least not truly, not authentically. And it's okay to come to terms with and admit that a lot of the relationships we've been in have been um, just based on unconsciousness, and there's so much to learn from all that. So it's better to be alone than to be, maintaining a relationship that is keeping you from your aloneness, right? So if you can find someone that respects your aloneness and is seeking aloneness, then you can have a really powerful bond, and all kinds of incredible love can come. And even that can be almost impossible to continue because of just how difficult it is, to communicate, to truly get honest with yourself, to not retaliate, to not get in a power struggle. Sexual exchange is an exchange of power, and unless you know that, then you're operating in unconscious ways. But once you do know about it, then it's like, holy shit, you have to take responsibility for knowing that and kind of step into a new level of appreciation and gratitude for all of it. And that can often lead to some periods of celibacy, or learning how to just be more respectful for the whole thing in general. But wherever you're at is where you're at, and I hope that you make the most of your days and enjoy being, alive. It's a miracle. Thank you.